There is a continuum in popular culture that reaches back to the gold rush. Based at least partly upon real events and real people, the stories continue to influence and animate our world today. It is the story of how real people such as Solomon Maria Simeon Pico influenced the development of the myths of Joaquin Murrieta, all the way to the arrival of Zorro, Superman, Batman, and even to the Avengers. The real-life atrocities and imagined tragedies from the Gold Rush period led to the occurrence of homegrown heroes and even superheroes. It is also a reflection upon issues of social justice that reach to present-day society. The Gold Rush fundamentally altered the life of the Californios, Spanish-speaking residents born in pre-Gold Rush California. Many Californios were ruined by the aftermath of the Gold Rush. They lost land. Although supposedly protected by the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo and California land laws, Californios found it hard to prove title to their land, thanks to different legal systems and surveying techniques, and this led to protracted and expensive legal proceedings that Californios often lost. Some individuals, like Mariano Vallejo, not only lost land, but also status, politically and socially. Among those ruined was Solomon Maria Simeon Pico, son of a soldier who had been granted 50,000 acres between the Tuolumne and Stanislaus rivers. It was a rich gold-bearing region, but Pico lost his herds and lands to the onslaught of Argonauts. Pico's wife was raped and beaten to death. Pico became a masked highwayman and sought revenge on Anglo travelers along the El Camino Real. Pico cut off the ear of his victims to leave no doubt of his presence. The ears were hung from his saddle horn. Pico became a popular figure of rebellion among the Californios, and he attacked with impunity for 8 years. Pico was able to avoid arrest or escape custody a number of times, most famously in 1851, when he shot the hat off of a presiding judge named Benjamin Hayes while in court in Los Angeles. Pico was wounded but escaped when he was helped by a Confederate who held off a pursuing sheriff with a sword. In 1857, Pico moved to Baja California, where 3 years later he was arrested and executed by Mexican authorities. Pico was not the only Californio who suffered personal loss and exacted revenge. During the California Gold Rush, there were Californios, invariably described as bandits, who sought to punish the new dominant culture for their actions toward the Californios. A series of daring robberies and assaults occurred, and were all tied to a bandit leader called Joaquin. There were actually several Joaquins, and among these was one named Joaquin Murrieta. However, as the incidents escalated, soon the real Joaquins transformed into a legendary fictional character called Joaquin Murrieta. From newspaper reporter and poet John Rowland Ridge's fertile imagination sprung a book entitled The Life and Adventures of Joaquin Murrieta, the Celebrated California Bandit. This book was the first novel published in California and the first published novel written by a Native American. Ridge defined the legendary Joaquin's persona and set the stage for the adventures that followed. Ridge drew upon the already well-known exploits of Pico. While not shying away from the brutality associated with the various Joaquins, John Rowland Ridge imbued Murrieta with dash, daring, intelligence, and swagger. This Joaquin became a potent symbol of resistance for the Spanish-speaking residents of California. He still is. In the 20th century, Pico became part of the inspiration for a popular cultural hero, Zorro, which means the fox, a nickname Pico never used. In 1919, writer Johnston McCulley collected the Pico stories and the Murrieta legends and fictionalized them into the potboiler The Curse of Capistrano. This fictional figure had a dual identity. He was gracious nobleman Don Diego Vega by day and the bandit avenger Zorro by night. Unlike Pico, Zorro's enemies were not the Anglos, but corrupt Mexican authorities. In McCulley's description, Don Diego Vega, or Zorro, was too much the gentleman to cut off his victims' ears and string them from his saddle, as had Pico, so Zorro left his mark by carving a Z into the victim's cheeks. Zorro became the subject of popular movies, such as Douglas Fairbanks' silent films and Tyrone Power in the 1940s. In the 1950s, Zorro came to American TV, but carving a Z in his victim's cheeks was just too nasty, so the TV Zorro cut his Z into trees, the sides of buildings, and into the clothing of his adversaries. The TV Zorro also spent much time protecting the decent, good-hearted gringos from the vicious Mexicans. Pico would have been appalled. In the 1980s, Zorro had a resurgence in the movies and on cable TV. Macaulay's Zorro set a template of a hero who masqueraded as a mild-mannered person by day, but a remarkable, extraordinary skilled avenger by night. The device of having a genteel public face for a private avenger superhero was well established by the 1930s. In 1933, Jerry Siegler and Joe Shuster developed the comic book figure of Superman, the first popular culture figure to have alien superpowers, but they fit the story into the template of mild-mannered public figure with the private hidden hero. Jerry Siegel acknowledged that a primary influence on the story and art for Superman was Douglas Fairbanks' portrayal of Zorro in the silent movie The Mark of Zorro. In 1939, Bob Kane and Bill Finger created what some referred to as a Superman ripoff called Batman, featuring the now familiar idea of a mild public figure, millionaire, later billionaire, Bruce Wayne, and the stealthy Avenger, the Batman. The origin story for Batman states that Bruce Wayne vows to protect the innocent after he witnessed the murder of his parents outside a movie theater. In this panel, this Batman canon is taken a step further by pointing out that Bruce Wayne was influenced by the movie he was watching the night his parents were murdered, his favorite movie, namely The Mark of Zorro. And so these icons of popular culture, Zorro, Superman, Batman, and all the way to today's The Avengers, can be said to have their genesis during the actual events of the California Gold Rush. Yet another way this extraordinary event continues to influence us today.